All right, let's get right into it. If you've got a research methods exam on the horizon, then you are in exactly the right place. Think of this as your go-to review for one of the trickiest parts, building a solid research instrument. We're going to cover how you turn a big idea into actual measurable data. Okay, let's do this. So, everything really starts with this one kind of huge question. How in the world do you measure something you can't even see? Like confidence. You can't just take a ruler to it. Or what about burnout? There's no scale you can put that on. This right here is the central puzzle that a really well-designed research instrument is meant to solve. So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to cackle how to measure those invisible concepts. Then we'll get into choosing the right philosophical lens for your work. After that, we'll pick the right tool, walk through a super practical 8-step blueprint, and we'll wrap up by talking about why getting this right is so important. Okay, let's jump into that first big challenge, measuring the unseen. This is all about taking a massive abstract idea and wrestling it into something concrete, something you can actually study. The one word you absolutely have to know for your exam is operationalization. Now, I know it sounds a little intimidating, but the concept is actually pretty simple. It's just the process of taking a fuzzy idea, let's say happiness, and defining it by things you can actually see or count. So happiness could become the number of times a person smiles in an hour. Or for student engagement, maybe you measure hours spent studying or how many questions they ask in class. It's the essential bridge that takes you from a vague concept to real solid data.
And that brings us to why we need a formal tool, like a survey or an interview guide in the first place. It really boils down to 3 big things. First, it's the vehicle for that operationalization we were just talking about. Second, it guarantees consistency, making sure you ask the same questions in the same way to every single person. And third, and this is huge, that consistency is what makes your results valid, meaning you're actually measuring what you intended to, and reliable, meaning someone else could do the study and get similar results.
Now, before you even dream of writing a single question, you have to do something that feels a bit more abstract. You have to choose your research lens. This isn't just a small detail, it's the philosophical bedrock that every other decision will be built on. And here's where your philosophy connects directly to the tool you build. So if you're coming from a positivist view, you believe in a single objective reality that can be measured. So your goal is measurement, and your tool is going to be something really structured, like a multiple choice survey. But if you're an interpretivist, you believe reality is subjective, and you're chasing meaning and understanding. That requires a totally different, more flexible tool, like a deep, open-ended interview. And then there's pragmatism, which basically says, hey, let's use whatever works, often mixing both to solve a practical problem. So here it is, the golden rule. If you take away just one thing for your exam, let it be this: everything must align. Your choice of a research tool is never, ever random. It has to flow directly and logically from your research questions and your deep down beliefs about what knowledge even is. You wouldn't use a flexible interview to find a single objective number, right? It just wouldn't make sense. Okay, so we've nailed down the why behind our choices. Now let's get into the what, the actual instrument itself, and how we make dead sure that it's both consistent and accurate. Your choice really comes down to 2 main styles. On one side, you have standardized tools. Think of a super strict survey where every single person gets the exact same questions in the exact same order. This gives you amazing consistency, which is perfect for those quantitative positivist studies. On the other side, you have flexible tools, which are common in interpretivist research. These let you follow interesting threads, ask follow-up questions, and really dig deep to get that rich, detailed, subjective data. All right, so you've got your philosophy, you know what kind of tool you need. Now what? How do you actually build this thing from the ground up? Well, lucky for you, there's a practical 8-step blueprint you can follow. This framework literally walks you through it. You start by defining your goals. Then, step 2, you review the literature. Seriously, a huge pro tip: do not reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. See if someone else has already built and tested a great tool. From there, you draft your instrument. But you're not done. Then comes the really critical testing phase. You get it validated by experts, and you absolutely must conduct a pilot test. Only after you've refined it based on that feedback is your instrument good to go. Let's just hang on step 6 for a second, because this is so important. Pilot testing is your dress rehearsal. It's where you take your survey or your interview guide and try it out on a small group of people who are just like your target audience. Why? To find out if your questions are confusing, if the wording is clunky, or if the whole thing just takes way too long. This is your one chance to find and fix all the problems before they can completely derail your real study. Don't skip it. So let's pull all these threads together. We've journeyed from this high-level, abstract philosophy all the way down to a practical, step-by-step blueprint. But what's the big picture? Why does all this careful work matter so much in the end? Because at the end of the day, a research instrument is so much more than just a list of questions on a page. It's the engine that drives your entire study. It's the single piece of machinery that connects your philosophical worldview to the hard facts and data you're going to analyze. It's the device that truly makes new knowledge possible. And I want to leave you with this final thought, both for your exam and for any research you do in the future. If your tool, your survey, your interview guide, your ruler is flawed, if it's biased or just poorly designed, what does that say about the truth you think you've uncovered? A faulty instrument can only ever give you faulty answers, and that right there is why every single step we talked about is absolutely critical. Good luck on your exam.